What's the best strategy in your mind for someone that wants to go make money in real estate?
The thing that's really crushing it right now is adding ADUs.
The way that you make money in real estate is you solve bigger problems.
It's one thing to make money. It's one thing to save money, but it's one thing to have the money that you have saved making money.
Forced appreciation and leverage, to me, are the two things that make your money make more money. 2025 is going to be a big experiment year.
It's going to be the year of transparency.
You need to enjoy what you're doing. Money loves to move.
Thank you.
And
it doesn't want to sit.
Welcome back to the show. This is For Your Own Good, and I'm here with Kenny Simpson, man, and it's great to meet you. I mean, Rich set us up like yesterday to do this, and you're over here, and I really appreciate you coming by, but you are an expert in the capital markets. You're a homeownership educator. You're in the lending space, and I'm really excited to just dive deep into numbers, the market, real estate, anything that we're getting into today. So, tell me a little bit more about yourself and what people can expect.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on. Glad to come out. And I always sit here and age myself, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I wish I'd been doing content for 20 years, right? It wasn't even around. But the quick story is I got into the real estate game kind of by accident, saying I didn't finish school. My friends were all making money. It was right before the crash. It was 03, 04, watching people just printing money. And I was like, college isn't teaching me anything. So I got out of here, got to get out of here. And I ended up calling a buddy, getting into the mortgage business. And then fast forward, shit blew up. And if you were in the business at that time, whether you were you owned a bank, you were a broker, lender, agent, anybody, you definitely got checked. You probably got whacked by the knees. And so I was like, what am I going to do? At that time, I ended up meeting my wife, which I knew her mom. So we got together, and she was in the commercial space doing commercial financing. So we do residential commercial. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, well, what are we going to do? This is what we do. So we kind of would just start getting back to work. And it was like figuring out how we can help clients and kind of crawling out of a hole for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Super depressing in that time. Like when you look at now, rates are higher, but you have value, stock market's up, people are doing okay, they have jobs. Back then it was like nobody had jobs, businesses are failing. Take a place like San Bernardino County over here, the real estate was down 60, 70%. You can't even fathom.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say, oh yeah, I want the market to crash so I can go buy and I can afford it. But they don't understand what that actually means to the everyday person in America. It means that shit's bad. And you're not gonna really get lending. You're not gonna be able to afford, you're not gonna have a job. For prices to crash, things are gonna be really bad. And so if you wish for things to crash, and I was around during that time, I was younger, 08, 09, I was going to take a break after college and be like, oh, I'm going to take a gap year or whatever. And then I remember watching the TV, watching the news and being like, I got to go get a job. And luckily I was able to get a job and ride that out. I didn't buy any real estate at that time. I know, but you have to remember, and you do remember, this is what you're saying is to have the confidence and ability and means to go buy in 08, 09 as an investment property, kudos to you if you did it, because in that time you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself.
We did it, but yeah, people were saying you're an idiot, it's a bad deal, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yes, exactly. And so then what happened after that?
So we started turning the business around, and then basically next thing you know is start making goals, buy a property, get a new office, and then things started turning around. The good news at the time, just like now, is, let's take my business right now. 2020, there's 430,000 loan officers. Beginning of this year, 93,000.
Whoa.
Just stop and think about that. So at that time, you just cleared out everybody, so there wasn't much competition. So you're coming out, but you really had to get good at helping people. Banks didn't want to lend. There was no secondary market. So all that stuff, we were doing all those loans to help people stay in it, all that was gone.
Yeah.
The non-QM market now, the DSCR, the bank statements, imagine that gone for 6-7 years. Gone. Non-existent. Can't find it. And so it's Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, some jumbo, and that was it.
Yeah, and so what he's, for those of you out there that maybe don't understand what he's saying, non-QM, help me understand the Q again.
Let's say non-qualified, but considered a self-employed borrower.
Yeah.
You can, I can't qualify full doc, I'll use 12 months bank statements. Those days, right now, just imagine it stops and it will come back in 6-7 years, but slowly come back.
Yeah, and the reason that's important is because that's what investors traditionally use. Yeah, the average homeowner, your first-time buyer, if you're living in a property, you're getting a conventional mortgage. You're getting a 30-year fixed rate at whatever your credit score is. You're showing your W-2 from the job that you've been working in for 20 years. Like
bread and butter.
Bread and butter, baby. Yeah. For investors, you own so much property that maybe it cash flows, maybe it doesn't. Your debt to income ratio looks like shit, or it doesn't exist, right? And so the way that you get investment properties is typically through a company. You're not personally guaranteeing, and you're using DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, and you're using non-conforming, non-qualifying, non-doc, all this other stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're like, what is Kassidy talking about right now? But you want to invest in real estate, you should go look this stuff up. Or
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
we're right there, right? And so so imagine you guys walk into a buffet, right? You're in Vegas and there's like so much food, but then all of a sudden we turn the lights off and we run around for 20 minutes and then we turn it back on, and you walk in there, you're like, there's one little thing for, the dessert, one little thing for appetizer, and there's only like a few things for dinner. And you're like, where'd everything go? I'm like, that's basically what happened to anybody that wanted to buy a home, or for us, the products were gone. So think about it, how hard it was to qualify. So anybody buying, like those investors that could buy, they were just getting hard money loans.
Yeah.
There was no conventional, there was no secondary. So that was it. So we made through there, and then fast forward, we started doing well. We started buying property and turning the things back around. It took a little bit. It was like 2012, and then in 2014 through something. It's 2012, a client said, hey, do you want to manage one of our apartment buildings? And we were kind of like, sure, we want to learn the business because we want to start buying apartment buildings. So we started managing this building and managed it for 2 years. Then in 2014 came, we started getting more people just outbound, hey, I want to manage more. And then we said, yes. And that turned into organically, didn't ask, didn't market it, didn't even reach out. In 3 years, we took a property management business while doing our business, while building our portfolio to 1,500 units.
Wow.
And we did rehab, repositioning, everything. And so we took one of our clients, we took from 180 units to 750 units. He didn't live here, lived all over the world, wired in money. We did the brokerage, the loans, the repositioning, the BRRRR on big apartments, and made him a lot of money. And then we realized, years later, how are we going to have a kid? How are we going to have a family? We're working 80, 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
So we sold that business.
Yeah.
So we really hyper-focused on the loan business, still building our portfolio. And then that's when I said, hey, I'm going to start getting into the content game.
Yeah.
And fast forward today, been doing the content game a long time, very focused on the origination business right now. That is my sole focus. And obviously just really educating people. And, you're in the space, so, putting out content takes a lot of work, and educating people. So that's really what I want to do right now at this moment in time.
Yeah, it does feel like everything's kind of changed. We're in like the post-COVID era of real estate and content, I would say.
Yep.
It's like COVID really changed everything. There was a lot of attention on real estate, on finance, on wealth. And there was a lot of things that like Hermosi was doing, and that trickled out through everywhere. There's a lot of people starting podcasts just like me, right? And some say it was a little bit easier for both real estate and content during COVID to
real estate was probably easier when rates are 2-3%.
Exactly. And so now we're in like post-COVID era for both, where I can feel and see a pullback on even some of the biggest creators. I can see people are re-strategizing on their real estate portfolios and what their actually strategy is. And so what do you see today, given the environment, given where we're at? Like, what's the best strategy in your mind for someone that wants to go make money in real estate?
Great question. So you're right. We work with some of the largest apartment owners in San Diego. Didn't raise money. We're talking guys that built, that are billionaires, 100 millionaires that built it all themselves over the last 30, 40 years. There was the hard knocks, but they were here at a time when things were much cheaper. And they're like, to replicate what we do now, you'd probably have to have some type of exit or something. There's no way. It's almost impossible unless you're a massive earner, right? And so a lot of people right now, we used to buy apartments. So we are sitting on apartment buildings, cash flowing nice, and we have not even done an acquisition in a couple of years because it hasn't made sense because of rates.
Yep.
It's tough.
Yep.
And it's not like cap rates have gotten better, the deals are better. It's, it's hard.
Yeah.
So your question is, well, where are people doing? Because I work with a lot of real estate investors, so they're active. So if you know how to flip homes and buy them right, especially here and other places, you can still do well. You're not going to maybe knock it out of the park in every one. You might lose, but you're probably winning. the thing that's really crushing it right now is adding ADUs.
Yep.
That's the game. So buying a single family, converting the garage, buying a single family, building 2 ADUs, buying a 5 unit, putting 5 ADUs. It's crazy. I've got guys buying a home, adding 13 ADUs. That is the game. That's pretty much where the guys that were even doing maybe syndication, doing apartments or just flipping or that is really what they're focused on. And that's kind of where the moneymaker is that I see right now.
And so is that one of the majority of the products that you're putting out there?
Yeah. So a lot of people I help, they'll buy like right for here. I have a client reaching out. We've done a bunch of stuff where he's like, I got a 5 unit locked up. We want to add 5 units. What's the best way to do that? So we're looking at, bridge loan, get the plans, permits, and go turn into a construction loan, or can we just do a construction loan straight through? And so we're looking the best option for them. They have a lot of experience and stuff, but that's where you're seeing people, if you can convert a garage for $75,000, you get an appraisal. It could appraise at $250,000.
Yeah.
I mean, what we did with our apartment buildings, that we had an office that had illegal unit. We turned that into an ADU. We had to do nothing. So basically it cost us 10, 15 grand with the paperwork and permits and all that. And we added $250,000. We did another one over here recently. And so that's the low hanging fruit right now.
Yeah, and basically what you're talking about is value add.
It's not the burr. This is the new way.
It's the new way. Yeah. So every couple of years, and this is what you need to do in real estate. Like, there's all this advice from business content creators that says focus on one thing until successful for a decade, right?
Yeah.
In real estate, that is true, but you have to be willing to focus in on the thing that you're really good at and be able to adjust your strategy based on the market that you're in and based on new regulations and new problems that are needing to be solved. And for years now, it's the housing shortage, right? And so the regulations in San Diego, Seattle, the town,
we're almost the same.
That's right. It's very same rules. And Thatch Nguyen is big on this, right? He spends time down in San Diego too, right? I'm talking to Chris Luna later this week.
Okay, cool.
And but what we're doing, so instead of doing the burr, it's a bigger, more extreme version of the burr, I would call it, but you're solving a bigger problem. And so the way that you make money in real estate is you solve bigger problems. And it used to be the multifamily, big apartment buildings. And there still is that, but it's a different formula. It's a different type of investor.
Probably more cash buyers.
Exactly.
It's very hard, or you're putting down a lot of, and most people don't have that much powder. They don't.
Exactly. And so for the average investor, the ADU play, and especially if you can split up the parcel, and I don't know if you know much about this, but being able to split up the parcels and sell them off individually.
That's past here. They have not implemented because I think they're going like, how do I do this? But you guys are doing it up there.
Yeah. And so you still need to go through the permitting process and you still need to figure it out. But essentially, like up in Seattle, and Thatch is great at, there's a buy box. You need a buy box. So when you're going and adding ADUs, you need to make sure that you can actually put ADUs on the lot, right? And then you're buying the house for the right price. And this is one of the things that I teach. You may not know this about me, but I teach about velocity of money. I don't teach ADUs specifically, but I teach velocity of money.
Okay, cool.
And forced appreciation and leverage, to me, are the two things that make your money make more money. And so if you can get the right amount of leverage on a property, and so you were talking about, do we just do a hard money and then into a construction or
that's what these guys do. They come to me, they want to put minimal down. So we do a bridge, and then the bridge turns into construction. They're like, we want minimal in, 20% down. We want the rest. So for example, this deal, the guy is going to buy, he'll be in it for all 2 million. It'll be worth 4 million.
Exactly.
But he's got to do the work. They got to find the deal.
That's right. Yeah. And so right now, yes, you have to do the work. Part of the velocity of money strategy is you still have to do the work.
And find the deal, right?
And find the deal. But right now, and I mean, gosh, when real estate really started getting popular, I think in my generation was Kiyosaki, Brandon Turner, long-term rentals.
Yep.
And now there's no way you're ever going to retire or make a bunch of money in real estate by doing those strategies, other than now going to the BRRRR method. And the BRRRR method is now like, oh, well, it's BRRRR to short-term rental to Airbnb because you don't cash flow on the BRRRR as much.
Rates are like this, right?
Yeah, and rates are like that. That's right. And so now you got to go to find bigger ways of making more money, and the ADU play is going to be it. And so hard money, a lot of people think that's like, they would never even consider it. Why would I pay 12% on a hard money loan? And so what do you say to people that are like, that don't understand leverage or debt or why it's important? So you mentioned well,
I'll tell them this.
Yeah.
So they'll go, maybe they know a big apartment owner here. They go, hey, I heard so-and-so. I don't mention names usually, but I heard so-and-so. How did they get to a couple thousand units? I said, how do you think they got there? They go, well, I wonder. I said, well, why don't you take a guess? Leverage? There you go. I said, some of these guys, one of them in particular, I asked them, I said, well, how did you know you're going to make it? I didn't know.
Yeah.
So some of it was during the 80s and 90s. They got somebody to say, I bought an apartment building with an 80% down, and I found some rich guy to give me a second to 100% and charge me 20%. And they go, that's crazy. And his friends are like, you're an idiot. And now that guy has 7-figure cash flow a month, flying around a private jet, all his stuff. There's no partners. There's no nothing. And he goes, yeah, I'm an idiot. Yep. And so the thing is like, you have to understand that, like you said, it's calculated risk. It's not being dumb. If you're dumb, the problem is if you're dumb, you buy a deal and you get squashed, you're not going to come back to the drawing board.
That's right.
It's like people that invest in crypto went in, they got screwed. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, you're trying to go for the quick buck. You got to stick to your strategy. And like you said, you have like Thatch was saying is, you have this box, and if the deal doesn't fit in the box, you don't start moving the box. You just go move to another deal, right?
That's right. Yeah, because there's always going to be more deals. There's always going to be more deals.
That's what that guy would say is there's always another deal. Just move on.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah, and I used to have the scarcity mentality of like, I have to do this deal. I have to do this deal. I have to do this deal. And actually during COVID, and I'm really glad that we ended up making it happen. It was because like there was just a bunch of stuff with deferrals going on, and like we had to call the actual credit agency, TransUnion, Experian. We had to call them directly and get something removed off of our credit report that wasn't supposed to be there to be able to close in time for this loan. And I remember my feeling of anxiety around, I have to do this deal. I have to do this deal. And I'm really glad we made it happen. But now, after seeing and like helping other people underwrite deals, you see how many deals are coming across the table. And yes, there are those that you're like, this is the one, and you know it right away. Yeah. But also if it doesn't happen, there was a reason it didn't happen.
Yeah. And that's why now for me, it's like, I get to see everything. I get to see, like people go, how do you know ADUs work? I said, I don't even need to listen to my client. I've seen the buy. I saw the cost. I did the refi. I saw the appraisal. I saw what they sold it for. I see the rent. I see it. I don't need you to tell me if it works. I've already seen, between me and my clients, we've done, 200 ADUs. I have the data.
Yep.
I don't have to, so I know it works, right? And so I think because it's funny, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, like one of the things he always says, it's one thing to make money. It's one thing to save money, but it's one thing to have the money that you have saved making money.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying is while you're sitting here doing what you do, I'm an attorney, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a W-2 this, I'm a business owner this. It's like your money's sitting here, you start learning it to work that sucker, work it hard, right? And that's what you've velocity of money to really get it out there to work while you're sitting here,
Exactly. Like when you realize that for most people, especially if you are a doctor, attorney, lawyer, like a professional, working professional, real estate acts as a really high leverage bank account.
There you go.
Right. And if you're just satisfied getting the 3% market return, or you put it in a CD, you could, 10x, 20x that by just going and buying a high appreciating asset. The thing that I actually tell a lot of people that have W-2 jobs that are high income earners, they're software engineers, dual income, maybe they have kids, maybe they don't, and they're thinking about buying some real estate. I tell them, go buy in an area that's the highest cost of living, go find the best zip code and go buy a property in that neighborhood that needs a little bit of work, do enough to force appreciation on that thing, and then sit on that thing for 5 years and then sell it. Because you may not cash flow, but if you're a high income earner, you don't need to cash flow. You want appreciation. And so if you can go buy a $2 million house and make it worth 2.5 to 3 in 5 years, you just made $1 million. You don't care about the cash flow, right? And so what's your highest leverage activity? And for me, for people with the jobs, that is something that I tell them all the time.
Yeah, because I work with a lot of, because of our background and everything, I actually did some content and things like that with Bigger Pockets. So I have a lot of people on there reach out to me. I've been on their podcast, and I know the people that kind of run all that. And so a lot of people reach out, first time investors. We have the same conversation, but I always tell people, like, I meet doctors, attorneys, or even people in tech in California that are making really good money. And some of them are doing crazy things. There's groups that are like going together. They're buying homes, fixing them. They're buying homes in the Bay Area and knocking them down, building another one. And it's crazy. They'll buy it for $2.5 million. They'll knock it down. They'll build it for $1 million. They have like a set developer. So they're into it now for 3.5, and they sell that thing for 4.5, 5. It's like clockwork.
Yep.
And so they have a team, but the one thing, as I tell them, if you're going to go buy, like you said, investment, I'm like, look, you're a doctor, attorney. You guys are making great money. You don't care about cash flow. So everybody always wonders, like, who's going to buy your property? Like once you here in California, once you fix it up and you sell it and it's all new renters, all fixed up, it's ready to go for 10 years. It's those people.
Yeah.
They're going to come in with a big down payment. They're going to set it, forget it. And when rates were low, we had the doctors, attorneys doing 10, 15 year fixes because they're like, look, I want to be retired in 15 years. So I had a couple of these groups buying all these properties. They're losing money, but they're making so much money at their job. Now those things are almost paid off. And they're like, I'm going to have all these houses paid off. And I could literally now replace my income and I'm done.
That's right.
And that's the model that fits for them.
Exactly.
Because they don't have time to worry about going in, fixing up and all this. They just know it's not worth it. I make $1,000, $2,000 an hour. Just do that.
Yeah, exactly. And it may be losing, but it may only be losing on paper. And that's something else that people don't understand either.
It's like a forced retirement account, right?
It's a forced retirement account that is going to make you a lot more money than just sticking to the average returns in the
bill
market.
every month. That's how they looked at it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also say like the San Francisco example of like buying for $2.5 million, tearing down and selling for $5 million. That's the other thing I say is like, stop wasting your money in these $300,000, $400,000 markets. Your time and your dollar goes so much further when you go into more expensive markets and to hire.
It's insane.
Yeah, because you're doing the same amount, essentially the same amount of work, energy, and effort and time. Especially if you stick to residential, right? It's about the same amount of time and effort to work on a $300,000 house as it is a $2.5 million house, right? There's different challenges, different things. I get it, but you're gonna 3, 4, 5, 6x your dollar just because of the neighborhood that you're in or the area that you're in. And I think people's limiting beliefs are, oh, I can't afford that. But what we're talking about is you need to go find people, you need to go raise money. These dentist groups, these lawyer groups, I didn't know how many of them are out there. They're buying a lot of real estate as groups.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're,
and they will have somebody in the group running it. They have like a company within them. That's why I said these tech guys, they have this. So oh, Kenny, here's our assistant, work with this. And they're just throwing the money. Okay, looks good. I trust you, go.
Yes.
And then next thing you know, they got 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 deals going. They're like, great. They're just doing their job.
That's right. Yeah. And basically what you're talking about is they created sort of a fund, not an official fund, but they created an investing company. 10 guys, just like you, just like me, Bob, Sam, Jane, Jill, that work for, XYZ dentist, or they work for a tech company. And
look, you could take an example. You could work for Apple. Let's say you make $500 a year up to $2 million a year as an engineer. That's what it is. You're getting your salary, pays your bills, but then you get the RSU, which is the stock, right?
Yep.
So these guys are like double dipping the chip. They get the RSU, the stock pops, they sell it, they bring the money over here, they put it in the real estate deal, and they're just keep funneling the money over here because they know, yes, this RSU and all this stuff's great, but I have to show up and grind every day for this thing. Over here, I just keep throwing it over here and just build, then that net worth's building, right? And then eventually you could start plowing that thing down on some bigger buildings, which we did. It's like you put the chunk down and you get a really good cash flow. You do it again and again. That's what we kind of did, is like build it up. We traded properties, 1031, and bought some bigger buildings here. And it turned out to be big cash flow. And that was the game changer. Like, how'd you do that? I'm like, you got to start small. Start with one. So I started with a house and added value to it and made $500,000 tax free. And then that was the start of it. And that was in 2014. And I look back, I was like, I'm an idiot. What do you mean? I'm like, I should have leveraged everything I could have, and I knew it. I just did not. Even in the business, guys, listen to this. Even in the business that I do, I still get taught lessons of guys like you or other people that have more focus on the leverage piece, because I'm doing different. Like, oh, I could have leveraged smarter that way. I didn't even think about that, even though I was in the damn business.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want to get over leveraged, but you have to know what being over leveraged means.
And
too.
when you could do it.
And
right?
when you could do it.
That was the time where you're like,
yeah. Yes, exactly. Low rates, like the market's continually appreciating, like all that sort of stuff. And so help me understand with multifamily, because I know you've done a lot of multifamily in the past. Where are we at with the multifamily market, and like what happened? Because you mentioned you need a lot of cash down right now. So help me understand the multifamily market.
Let's just say this. So my wife's she's 41 maybe. So she got in the business at 19. So I call her the commercial. She worked like in San Diego, very well known for multifamily, can do nationwide, but here a lot of apartments. And so just in perspective, nationwide, if you take your top brokers, whatever, the average guy's probably down 70% of their business. So I tell people, just stop and think about it. If you're listening to this, you have a business, it's down 70%. So you're definitely in survival mode.
Yeah.
Even if you have money stacked, you're like, man, your clients that have a lot of money, they're just stacking money, maybe not buying, they're waiting. And so really what we've learned is 5%, that rate, like so right before Jerome Powell cut the 50 basis points, I literally said, guys, I hate to say this might be the lowest rates are for a while because they're going to trickle up. I didn't think this much.
Yeah.
But we're up. They cut 100 basis points, but the rate went up 100 basis points, which is not normal.
No.
So when you got that, we got a taste of the patient like lifted off the dying bed and like, oh my gosh, we can do deals. And there was just a small window where the deals started flowing. So what happened is it was just rates. It was rates, but also too, is a lot of people are locked in on really low rates.
Yeah.
So they're going nowhere.
Yeah.
They're cash flowing, they're hanging tight. But obviously if this thing kept going on, it would put more pressure. So we just haven't seen deals. Yeah, they've come down in price, but not crazy. And yes, there's syndicators that you might have heard of that have give back properties because they did the bridge debt on a floater rate and they just got caught, right? And that just happens every cycle. So what you're dealing with here is deals don't make sense because when you go buy this deal for, I'm going to buy this deal for $5 million and you used to be able to put down 30, 35% makes it work. Now you're like, wait a minute, I got to put down 50, 60 because the rate and the lenders are a little bit more like, yeah, we're not being aggressive too on our DSCR, which you know what that stands for. And so underwriting's tougher. Banks are gun shy. They're also managing a balance sheet, which means all the loans they have that they're holding like with their money, they might have some exposure to office, commercial stuff. So they're like, we can only get so aggressive because I know CEOs, I know chief credit officers. I know a lot of these banks in California. We know the people that behind the scenes. So we have these conversations. That's who we're talking to. And so you just have a industry that, let's say the multifamily, where it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you hear Grant Cardone buy deals, you hear a lot of them, maybe they're cash or he put 50% or he assumed debt of a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac debt, right? Which is long-term. But otherwise, it's really, really hard for a deal to make sense. So a lot of people that were doing that, like you said, they look and go, well, where else can I hunt? If I'm a caveman, I got to eat. I got to go somewhere else. And so...
Yeah. And so what do you...
The biggest challenge is rates need to come down. I think once you start seeing in the 5s, where we hit that before, in the 4s, you will see like the nozzle go. And there's a lot of money on the sidelines, a lot. And I feel like it's been a tidal wave of building up. And the longer this goes, the more people probably get out of the business. But when the thing turns around, the more the swing's going to come hard.
I think so too.
Hard, you know?
Yeah. I think the thing that I learned over the past 12 months is like how much money, when I've gotten heavier in my investing, like how much money is actually out there, like how much money people actually have, but how much the rates and pricing affects how much the market moves. And like, I'm not an economist. I'm not like, but you can really sense over the last 24 months how people feel about what's going on.
The feel economy?
Yeah, the feel economy. Yeah. Like how people feel.
The R word.
Yeah.
Recession.
Like
they think we thought it would be here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I wasn't surprised when they cut the rate, but nothing really happened. Like, yeah, you're right. There was that little window, but like
right before is like the 10 years, like we got to 3.5. It was like even residential. I mean, it was like, wow. Well, you saw though the influx. Like I can tell you right now, when you get to see that, you're like, holy smokes. Like the mentality of people, it was like, it's like the switch turn and then it just turned right off quick. And it was almost like a letdown, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a one night stand or something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and boom, it's over. It was so fast. It's like a month, the rates were back up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're going to be there for a while. I think we'll see more residential move because it's people's living situation.
Yeah.
And they need to move. I think we're selling our sub 3% rate right now, and I'm totally fine with it because we have a bunch of equity and we're going to go redeploy that into something else, like our own personal selves, but also into boutique hotels, and that's and
there's reasons why you're doing it. So I tell people, death, divorce, job switch, partner split up. I got to relocate, whatever. People are moving. They're getting. Some people. I wrote a blog. I do a lot of content. Obviously, I wrote a blog probably a year and a half ago, and I called it the accidental real estate investor. And what it was is people did not know when they locked in this 2.5%, 3% rate or even lower, that they did not realize that we're going to keep the house and we're going to go buy something else. And they're like, wait a minute, my payment's $3,000 and I can rent it out for $5,500 and make that much money. And I'm like, yeah, they were not planning on being a real estate investor, but I'm like, yeah, you keep that. That's like an annuity.
Yes. And I love that you brought this up because there's this question of inventory and supply. And, I don't know the stats now. Maybe you can remember them, like how many actual homes are available for people to buy compared to how many want.
I'll give you some stats.
Yeah. Let's hear it, dude. Yeah.
So people were coming to me saying, hey, this is going to be like 2008, right? I said, okay, cool. Let's take San Diego. So in San Diego, I'm going to let you guess. We'll play the guessing game. In San Diego, at the peak of inventory here, how many homes do you think were on the market, like at that point in time, listed on the market for all San Diego? Take a guess.
Oh, I couldn't even.
Where you are,
yeah,
right?
In Seattle.
do you know what inventory is like where you are, or you don't pay attention?
Right now, there's in Kirkland, there's probably 40 listings. Only 40.
What do you think it was when it was at the peak?
Probably 200 just in the city alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So San Diego, during the peak, is almost 28,000 listings for 3 million people. Right now, 4,000.
Wow.
So I tell people, just stop what I told you. So when you tell me it's going to crash, so let's go over numbers. Foreclosures coming out in 2012, not at the peak of foreclosures, at 2012, 35% of all national sales were short sales and foreclosures.
Yes.
Right now, it's like 1%.
Yeah. People thought that everyone that's saying foreclosures, post-COVID, I was like, no, there's no way it's going to happen because everyone has equity in their home so they can sell it. And there's no inventory right now. So they're going to be able to sell it.
Yep.
There's no foreclosures going on right now.
At the peak of equity, we had $4.5 trillion in equity. Now I think there's 15 trillion in homes.
Yeah.
And then I tell people, they go, what about all the financing? I said, so the non-QM market.
So these are the investor loans,
right?
Yep.
So go back to last cycle. 35% of all the loans right before the market crash were on ARMs.
Adjustable rates.
Yep. Now 5%.
Yes.
So I tell people, are you getting where I'm going? Right now of the market, non-QM loans, I think is 5% of the market. Back then it was probably, I think it was 54% of secondary market stuff.
Yeah.
So I tell people, when you look at the data, you're like, this is nothing like 2008. It's not.
No, it's not.
So right now, the inventory nationally, we didn't even hit 5 million in sales.
Wow.
We didn't hit 5 million sales. Nationally, this last year, we did not hit 5 million sales, still under 4.6.
And so what's a good...
You should be, 6 or 7's healthy.
Yeah.
When we say healthy, that means I can list my house, sell it, and I know I can go find something else. Not like, well, wait a minute, if I list, where the hell am I going to go? There's 40 houses.
Yeah. Yeah, we're renting now. Now that was because we wanted more space and I don't want to own a primary anymore.
I rent too.
Right?
I rent too.
Yeah. I get for half the price, less than half the price in my town, the house that we are renting, it's about $5,000 a month in rent. It would be a $10,000 plus mortgage.
Okay.
Plus all the money down versus me taking all that money and going investing in real estate so that I can then buy my dream home when I'm ready to do that. But right now, I don't even want to deal with mowing lawns. I don't want to have to hire somebody. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Right.
So I rent it. So it's funny. So I rent a house now. I don't know if you know San Diego. I live in La Jolla Shores.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I'm up there in the hill.
Yeah.
Killer plot.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to live there?
So I rent there. And so the house I'm in, I actually approached the owner. I said, hey, you should let me buy your house. Okay. I say you should do a seller carryback.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finagle this because the home I'm in is the neighborhood I'm in. There's the average probably house in my neighborhood's 5 mil, all the way up to 20 mil.
Yes.
And so you mentioned you can go in this neighborhood and you could buy Like there's a guy just bought a house for 3.1 million on my street, great view. He's going to fix it up, probably put $1 million into it. He's not going to get it, but he's probably going to list it for 7 million. I just heard.
Yeah.
And this is the numbers.
Exactly.
So, but like you said, I'm like, even if I went to her, I was like, I'm going to say, hey, can I just I'm going to like approach her, lock it up, keep paying my rent. Don't buy it. Go get plans and permits because I want to redo it.
Yeah.
And then wait, because I'm like, if I buy it, I'm going to like double my payment. What's the point?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
There's not going to be any value till I do what I got to do. So it's like I could build. So in this neighborhood, I figured out, you'll get this because you do short-term rentals. I started looking around, and people do this in San Diego. So I could probably build the house I want. I can rent it out 45 to 60 days for the year and probably make a couple $100,000 in income and probably live there very, very minimal.
Yep.
And the people in my neighborhood, so I started looking at homes. I'm like, wait a minute. Their house is only listed for June through August.
That's right.
Oh, they live there.
Yeah.
And they just move out so they can help somebody else pays their mortgage.
That's right. And they cover it for the year.
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah. And go somewhere
house
really
hacking,
nice.
like at its finest.
It's how, yeah. And so it's really funny that like all these strategies work at any income level, any like wealth level, like being able to implement these strategies. This is another one of the velocity money things that I'm teaching is like, go buy the freaking most expensive Airbnb that you can buy. Like, and even if you don't cash flow, like in these neighborhoods, and don't be limited by what you think you can afford, go raise the money. If you have a good plan and a good strategy, like go raise the money to go do this. And so getting back to the inventory question, like the way that I look at it, and you can tell me your thoughts, there's what's available. There's the amount of people on the side, just like there's a bunch of money on the sidelines. There's a bunch of people that
a lot of buyers.
The millennials generation, like
millions, folks, millions and millions and millions.
So let's say rates go down to 5 and there's an influx. Well, one, there's not enough supply, right? And so let's say we build supply. Well,
you'll never build your way out of it.
Yeah, and the stuff they're building usually is not necessarily what people want. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of
not
shit.
where we live, yeah.
No.
Where you and I live, they just build luxury condos. We don't want to live in a condo.
No.
So I'm like, quit building that crap. Nobody wants it.
Yeah, or the quote unquote modern that's like cheap as hell, right? And I'm seeing some better stuff pop up, especially actually in Seattle and Kirkland. They're doing a little bit better.
It's nice.
But they're, selling it for top dollar. But you're in other states, let's say like I spent a lot of time down in Arizona, and they're building stuff just sprawling, traditional developments. They're building them for track homes, $150K to build. They're selling them for $350 to $400. And then you're way out of town and nobody wants to live there. And so if you own a home in a prime location, that thing can never be built ever again. And so you may want to hold on to it. Like I get that, but there's nothing wrong with locking in your profits either. And so, and then the other thing is your accidental investor.
So let's talk about inventory, right? There's places in Florida, there's Austin, there might be places which have high inventory. And we have to sit there and go, why? I'm like, well, pandemic hits and where did everybody go? We can just go on a map and go, everybody wanted to be in Austin. A lot of people are like, wait a minute, I really don't want to be here. Yeah. Plus somebody bought a home in Austin for $500,000. They didn't think about this. Let's say they're in California. Their house value goes up to 1.2. They get reassessed every year.
Yeah.
So their $10,000 tax bill now turned into $24,000. They're like, whoa. So they want to get out. So there's a lot of listings in Austin and things like that. But let's say nationwide we're low. So what happens? Rates, let's talk about it. Rates come down to where they were. You're not going to have the inventory. Not that 5% for some reason is a psychological barrier for people, right? Like you read this, hear this.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of people off the sideline to come in and move. You're going to have a problem. Let's just sad situation, fires in LA. 16,000 structures. I don't know how many people are displaced. A lot of rich people. What's happening?
Yeah.
People I know there talking to, boots on the ground. Everybody right now, we have them down here at our short-term rental. People are just, right now, they're figuring out a short-term solution. What do I do for the next 90 days, 120 days, 6 months? Figure it out, right? They're waiting to see when I'm going to build. Am I going to build? What's that going to look like? They want it before they make a move. People are already starting to try to buy it. People have money or buying another place, renting this and that. There's not enough rentals. There's not enough to go around. Yep. So eventually people are going to be like, wait a minute. So you're going to tell me to go back and build my house there? It's going to be 5-7 years. They're going to be, honey, we're not going to wait. Yep. Where are we going to go new life?
Yep.
There's Newport, Brentwood, all those places around.
Yeah.
No, imagine if rates come down.
Yeah.
So you're taking places like where we live, where there's just no inventory, and there's just not enough, and then you just basically throw 5% rates. You're just throwing logs and lighter fluid on a fire.
There's probably not a worse place that could have happened, just from strictly supply and demand issue, right? And I mean, it's one of the saddest, craziest things that I've ever seen happen. And like anyone that is like talking down about anyone that lives in the Palisades and those areas that got displaced, like, and Altadena, like go watch some of their stories. Like go actually like
I just reposted one again. This guy and I haven't, like, people can't get in there because National Guard, but some people have gone in. They've talked on like podcasts I've listened. So I go and listen to the podcasts of the people I know are local people, and they're like, it is like Iraq that got bombed.
Yeah.
They said it's like you said, it's really, they're talking maybe 5 to 10 years to just get this place back.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. And I know Grant Cardone was just in town for Rich's event, and Grant's saying things like, if Newsom doesn't rebuild LA in a year, he's failed. And I hear that and I'm like, well, he's just setting him up for failure. There's no way anybody can rebuild all that in a year. They will do things to accelerate development, which actually I think is going to be a good thing, right? And so Grant talked about, if it's on sewer, if it's a concrete block foundation, if it's this type of construction, like accelerate the permit process. And I think actually Trump and Newsom just agreed on that.
Yeah, I think they're going to.
Something like that. Yeah. But
you still got to clean all that crap up.
And who's going to own all that stuff? So here's like, this is what I think about, and especially with Grant being involved. Grant wants to run that development. Grant wants to make a lot of money off that. Like, and good for him that he knows an opportunity when he sees it. And so he's capitalizing on how people are feeling about Newsom and the economy in California. And I think
he has a connection to Trump, right? So
yeah, Trump, exactly. He's playing politics a little bit. And actually, I think the thing with Grant, he actually, I think, really does love California. He's kind of hated on it a lot, but he's got his Malibu house. I think he loves it, which is also why I think he is interested.
Think about how many people would move back here if we just had taxes and business common sense. We would have, like, this should be, no offense, this is the best. Like, I mean, no offense where you live, but this just what you have access to all here, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's just a different thing. And the funny thing is about like going out to other states like Texas and the Midwest, because we've invested in other states, the property taxes and the other additional costs in other states are insane. The property taxes out on the West Coast,
we don't get reassessed, and then they keep like.
Yeah, exactly. So now the reassessment is what's killing people. But yeah. And so, anyways, I don't want to get too much into politics or the fires or anything.
It'll be interesting. I hope that out of this, it sets a new tone for policy, because where you and I live, we deal with the same crap.
Yep.
I hope this is like the atomic bomb that just creates and says, guys, we really need to move things. This is the thing that changes it all for us, I hope, right? It's kind of like with Trump coming in, it's like, I tell people, it has nothing to do with Trump. This is about a movement where people are like, things need to change. You can't keep going down this road. You can't keep spending the money. And, let's go back to, let's talk about interest rates. Why are they really at? And I tell people, we can slice and dice this and that, but I'm like, it comes down to, and when you look at the data, which I study week over week, month over month, and I talk about it on my channels and in long form and all that, it's who's the biggest hire right now? Healthcare and the government.
Yeah.
We just went on a government hiring freeze besides different departments for 90 days because of Donald. We're not sitting foreign aid for 90 days. They're like, we got to stop the bleeding. We don't even know where money's going. So the government has really been propping things up. You don't think they are? They really are.
Yep.
Because if they weren't hiring like they were, we would already have worse job reports that keep getting revised. Last year, 23, they revised, they're off 800,000 jobs. By the way, when you go buy a home and they get a strong job report and rates go up and it gets revised next month, you can't get that money back. No. You're stuck at a quarter higher for the next
30 years.
They don't go, let me refund you. Sorry. No.
Yeah.
So it's affecting us all. And the fact that government has been putting all these programs together and all this, that is money that is going to the economy.
Yes.
And they're giving all this money. So when you start cutting all this free money and all this, it's still going on. They just don't talk about it. You might have a softer economy, but that's okay, because most of here that are working, we're actually earning the money, not getting it free. And so we'd rather have to go out and earn it and do the hard work, and rather have then let's get the real data. Where do we stand, right? And then that would mean, okay, this is the real data, then interest rates should come down and things like that. And we can't get that until you get all this crap out of the way that's really affecting all these things, because we don't get the right. Is the data really real when all this is in play? I don't think so.
Yeah, 2025 is going to be a big experiment year.
It's like I call it. It's going to be the year of transparency.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah, and we'll see. And there's going to be a lot of people upset all across the board, I think. And
a lot of people don't like change.
No, and there's going to be, the deportations, I think, are going to have an impact. Like, food costs will probably go up. Like, just being 100%, like, and if you were worried about the cost of eggs now, the deportations are going to cause the cost of eggs, fruits, vegetables, all of your produce. Like, that's just going to go up. Like, that's just going to be a fact.
Yeah.
And we'll see the effect of the tariffs. We'll see. And so when we talked about the field economy, I'm really interested to see what happens. So yeah, let's say we cut a bunch of spending from the government. There's some transparency. How long does it take until everyone feels better? Are they feeling better because they're already seeing?
I think they're feeling, let's just talk about this. The biggest business people in our country, if you know them or not, I'm talking about, from Ken Griffin, Citadel, if you know who he is, to a Larry Fink of a BlackRock, to those guys. When Trump came in, whether they like him or not, let me repeat, they don't have to like him. They just know that under the Biden administration, we were getting choked with everything. They just could not get a deal done. And I was talking about this the other day with somebody. It's like, do you know how much money, even on the small level of somebody trying to buy a, build a property or start a business or, buy a business or buy a massive business, the amount of wasted money that went into attorneys or extra money you sent to for architects or this or plans and permits that was wasted because of all this overregulation. Like, us hard-earned Americans that are earning money are throwing it down the toilet when we could literally say, if it would just got approved, we could have moved faster. We could have created more jobs, more housing. We could have had that extra money to go hire more people or spend in the economy. But we're over here pissing it down a drain and giving it to these attorneys and stuff because we're in a fight with this. So the overregulation just has killed the $50 billion deal down to you're trying to build a 10 unit here in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
And that is like wasted money. And then the government's been doing it too on the other side. So I think just being more efficient is making the business community more excited. So that means if they start doing deals, that is a trickle down effect for all of us. If a $50 billion deal gets done, that money starts to all of us, right? And so I think when you hear the business guys that are excited, I don't necessarily think they're excited about Trump. They're excited that, hey, we're going to be able to do deals. We're going to make business, and they're going to kill the regulation, maybe with banks and lending. And then we could take a look at Fannie and Freddie, and I can go into a little rant on that about how they could actually improve rates on that, just getting into that. There's many things we can do, just quick changes that would help us. But that's not going to be a full effect right away. That might come in a year or a year and a half. We're not going to feel it today.
I will say that it's January 2025 right now, the end of January. This whole month, I feel like the tides have shifted.
Yeah.
And I don't know why or who or Trump or I don't know any of that, but it feels...
It's a mindset, I think, right?
Yeah. And I think I think the election really was like, people were so sick of it too, whatever side you're on. I think we're all just ready to fucking move on.
Thank you.
Whatever.
Amen
and
to
so,
that.
I know, on both sides, it's like democracy's dying. And so I get that. I was really emotionally involved, and I'm like, not going to be emotionally involved anymore. And that's sort of the thing that you have to realize is like money loves to move.
Thank you.
And
it doesn't want to sit. That's what you're saying. When you say velocity isn't in neutral. Velocity, my friends, is in drive and go, right?
Yes, yes. And money loves to move. And so when you talk about like people getting money for free, however you want to interpret that, like whether you believe people or there's a return on circulating money in the economy in that way, like through handouts or whatever you want to call it. But the basis of money is actually to represent the value that you're adding into the world. And so by paying money appropriately for work being completed, that is actually how the economy grows. That's how the economy moves. If you're paying, like you said, like lawyers, exorbitant amount of monies, they may not actually be giving the amount of value that needs to be. And so that money doesn't actually move or affect the economy as much. And I know
money to go in circles.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to go in circles.
We're not moving forward. We're just going back, like looping, which is not good.
Exactly. And so there's this concept of like, money is the transfer of energy, and that's what actually helped grow the economy. I know it's kind of like conceptual that I'm talking about, but the basis of money was like, we started with exchanging goods like caveman days, right?
Yeah.
And then now we've created money, and we've all agreed that it has a certain value, but we expect value in return through work and effort and job creation and like all these other things that we measure. And so that's why the economy is such a feel economy too, is because if we don't feel like we're getting the value out of our dollar anymore, then that means that we're not feeling like the economy is growing as much. So
for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned early on that you are focusing really heavily on content now. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you said that. So I think with this mindset shift of what's coming into, which is it a goal in there or whatever, whoever's in there, I just think like people are like, enough of the BS. Let's go. Let's get back to business. Let's get back what the US does, right?
Yep.
Dominate, create jobs, do what we do best here, right? Like come together and do this. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing. And so when you know this is happening, you're watching this and maybe you're like, I want to invest in real estate. I want to start creating content. I want to create a podcast. I want to start a business. I think we're all having a mindset shift. And like, so we were talking, I think it was yesterday about, the fact that I get up at 3 a.m., right? And so this all comes back to this is I'm always focused, but I'm very focused on what does that want to accomplish? Like let's talk about the content. With the content game, which is a lot of work, it's like I tell people, you're either on the field or you're in the stands. And when you're on the field, there's not many people on this field, but in the stands, if you're at a football game, there's, let's say a couple hundred people on the field with coaches and players, and in the stands, there's 30,000 people. Well, those people are here to entertain you. They're here to score. They're here to run plays. You have come here with your hard-earned money to perform. They want something out of this. So whether we're shooting this podcast or doing content, like you have to continue to perform. You have to get better. And so with me and my job is I'm just really focused, and it's the power of like saying no we talked about, right? So if you want to start a podcast, you want to do more things, you want to start investing, you have to start realizing like this takes time, it takes energy, it takes money, but you have to really get focused. I think for me, I'm really focused on the content. I'm really focused on educating the first-time home buyer to the real estate investor to maybe the self-employed person that walked into the bank like today. They called me, they got denied by US Bank. No offense, US Bank, and said, Kenny, can you believe this? I said, actually, I can, but I can help you out, right? Yeah. And so I'm out there. I want to solve problems for people, and I want to make this happen. So I'm very focused right now about getting up, doing my thing, getting my me time, working out, and then getting after it. And so when I say no to people, it's like you can't get up at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. and be all over the place and staying up and this and that. So it's like me coming here today. I'm like, let's add some value. I said yes, but it's like if you asked me to come here at probably 10 o'clock at night, I'd be like, ugh, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just, I know what's coming. I know eventually rates are going to come lower. I know that there's going to be less and less people in my business. I know that there's going to be a tremendous opportunity with whether it's 2 years, 3 years, a run that's going to come again in real estate or whatever it is. And I want to take full advantage of that. So I'm trying to get myself online, my family in line, my office in line, my team in line, my content in line, my technology in line, so I can take advantage of this opportunity, right? And that's what I see coming here. So I'm very, very focused on that. And I don't know when that time's going to come. I don't know when rates are going to go lower. It could be 6 months, 8 months. So I need to be present now, and I need to be playing and acting like it's happening here now.
Yeah. So content is like number one at the forefront for you right now. Yeah. Yeah. My coach is Dan Martell, and
love him.
Yeah, we were just talking about him, and he basically 18 months ago. And so I've learned this from him, and I've kind of adapted what I've learned from him to launch the podcast. I've been using Instagram heavily. I don't do as many reels. I do a lot of stories. I'm going to get there, but basically he's created a whole media company around him as
crazy.
It's his
like quick.
It's his marketing department, but really it's a media company. And that's what it's Martell Media. And once every individual business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever point you're at, your biggest problem is that nobody knows who you are
and what you do.
So once you realize that social media is your ability to get your name out there and for people to know just who you are, then they can start to like you, and then they can start to trust you. And then that's how you grow your business, right? And you don't know this about me either, but I'm on this mission because I started in Airbnbs, and I started $300,000 homes, and I realized it took me longer than I would have liked. Realized it's small money and it's a small business. And actually Dan helped me figure that out and told me you need to build a bigger business. And that's when I started getting into hotels, commercial real estate, and then dreaming bigger, thinking bigger, and putting yourself out there on content like the possibilities are endless with the amount of money that you can make. And it's not just about the money.
No.
It's about meeting people like you. It's about making connections. It's the who, not the how, right?
It.
And I really believe in the power of content, and I want people to have fun with it. And so I think that's excellent. So your content, let me ask, you're educating people.
Yep.
Right. And so what do you want people to know about, because you called yourself what, a home ownership educator?
Yeah, I'm like the real estate guru, right? Like I told you, I can't fix your laptop, I'm not going to fix your car, I'm not going to build your house. But when it comes to mortgage, real estate, investing, maybe property management, things like that, which I've done, like I've got a master's in it because I did it, right? I didn't read a book and say, let me just tell you what the book says. I did it. So I think really what I'm trying to go out there is teach people that what I do is I also, when I'll watch a video that went viral in my space. I don't watch the video. I go through and read all your guys' comments.
Yeah.
Because I want to know like, oh, that's what you want to know. That's what you don't understand. And I was just doing my one of my long form pieces yesterday, which is on the monthly market update nationwide, just a high level look of inventory, things like that. And they did a survey. So first time home buyers, the biggest thing that the biggest 52% or so is that the fear is, or they don't know is, how am I going to find the property?
Yeah.
The second biggest thing, which I was kind of shocked was, it was not come up with the income, the money, the down payment, even though that was third. It was, I don't really understand the process.
Yeah.
And so for me, when you ask that, I'm like, well, I need you to understand the process. And so whether it's YouTube or Reels or stories, I'm constantly saying, hey, I just got off the phone with this client. Let me tell you about it. So I'm doing a lot of scenarios, a lot of here's this scenario, here's that scenario, going with this. So I'm just trying to give all of it to you guys so you can come on the channel or platform and maybe you have a scenario. Maybe you do want to buy a short-term rental and say, I've never done that, but I'm like, I want to do it with a DSCR. Okay, let's go through that. And so the more I put out there, the more I can help people. A lady contacted me. We just got on a Zoom call before I came in here, and she reached out to me kind of randomly, and she actually manages money for a lot of very wealthy athletes and business owners and restaurateurs that we go into, I won't mention. And she was asking about the content. She says, oh, I was watching your stuff. I like it. And maybe I think my clientele might need some of your help. If I didn't put content out, they'd never find me.
That's right. Yep.
And so I think it's just like you said, is my thing is actually Grant Cardone said, the reason why I do content is I don't necessarily need you to work with me. I just want you to know who I am and what I do.
Yes.
That is my goal.
Yep.
I know I'm not going to work with everybody. I know I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
But most people in my life that haven't seen me and see me, hey, what's up, Kenny? It's, oh man, I feel like I always see you, your content, your stories, your reels like this. And that's just because I become the content man in my space, but it's a lot of work. And so if I break it down, I'm a lot of the content creation. If people are wondering how to get started or how you do it, on my piece, I can tell you is a lot of it is in the creation and less into actually filming.
Yeah.
So I spend 80% of my time creation, 20% of my time filming. And when you get really good, you can batch the stuff and knock it out. And then I have team. I use virtual assistants to post it, to edit it. And I have somebody in-house now that is helping me on my team with the creation. That's right there, executive assistant, which is becoming more of a marketing person, what I needed.
Yeah.
And then obviously I work with another group that is, we work with, that works with kind of the biggest influencers in my business. And we just kind of work on, we're doing some ads, we're doing a lot of creation, and they're just teaching me the game. And so this isn't something you just learn to get comfortable. It's something that always is growing and improving.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that I've learned too. And like in line with what you're saying is, one, it's the reps. So if you haven't done the reps, like do the reps, like just start recording. And you want to do reels, because reels are how you go find more followers, right? You want to have growth, or at least
and you might suck in the beginning. It's fine. We all did.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
and if you're too nervous to do reels, what I did and what I've done, and this is what Dan taught me, is you do 3 stories per day.
Love it.
You talking to the camera, not like posting a picture of your family, you pull your phone out, you look at the camera, you look right at the camera, and you talk to it and you tell people what you do or what you believe in or whatever it is, and you post those. And the great thing about stories is they disappear after 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's practice. I mean, it's practice. Get the reps. And then the second thing is, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, that post-COVID content era, real estate era, it's a little bit different. I think before you could just kind of put stuff out there and the algorithm would pick it up. People were so attention hungry. They were so information hungry. And then everyone's kind of tired of stuff. and they want something new. And so spending time actually creating what you're going to put out. You should spend, more time, about 4 times more time on writing the 100%. Hook, the content, what you're actually trying to tell somebody than it takes to actually film and record the content, because that
chat GPT's my best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I did. Great. Thank you for bringing this up. I was dealing with hooks. I was like, I don't know any freaking hooks. And the whole hey, top 5 ways to do this. I was like, I don't want to do that. Right. Yeah. And so I went in ChatGPT and I had it scrub Dan Martell, Alex Hermo, like give me their top 10 used hooks. And then there was like 3 on there I liked that felt more natural to me. And then I was like, okay, break those down. This is what I do. And I ended up leaving with about 40 different hooks that I felt really comfortable with, that felt natural, that were engaging. And it was something like, most real estate investors do this or don't do this. And it was a way for me to get out of my comfort zone and be able to start doing stuff. But spending time creating what you're putting out, because that content will live on forever. That's your funnel. That's what you're putting out there. But also get the reps, put more stuff out there.
It's really, it's on, you're right. It's reps, it's consistency. And then you just become, the camera becomes your friend.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like, it just doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
It's there, but I can just talk right to it. And then.
Were you always that way?
No, hell no.
Yeah.
Right before this, I was like scared of a camera, scared of taking pictures, scared of talking, like literally scared. And then when we sold the management company, my wife says, hey, you should listen to this guy. Gary V. Who? Gary V. I swallowed his content. Yeah. 4 months later, I'm at his office in New York on a 4D dive. Yeah.
No.
Gary, I'm at the table here. Gary comes in. He goes, it's Gary. He goes, all right, so go around. And there's like 12 entrepreneurs. Some people were already bigger content creators, this. And I'm like, I'm like an idiot here. He goes, first picks on me. Okay, tell me about yourself. He goes, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just trying to learn this. So what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I need to learn this content stuff. I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I told him my story. He's like, all right. So you're just going to go back to San Diego and you're just going to give it all away.
Yeah.
I go, what does that mean? He goes, just go fucking do it. Like literally that's Gary says that. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. So I came back and started a podcast and started posting and trying all this shit. And it took me, I was putting this goofy, jacket on and this, and I kept filming. My wife's like, that's terrible. And then one day I was doing a green screen. This is after hundreds of videos. I was doing a whiteboard I'd white on, and she walked in this room and she goes, that's you. I go, what? She goes, that is the first time I heard you. And I go, really? She goes, the topic was passionate about me. She goes, that was you.
Yeah.
So I was like, from that moment, I realized I could move from here. It got better and better. But even like a podcast, when I started it, you're doing great. The interviews were tougher and asking you questions or this, and but you get through it. So you got to do the reps. Like, look, if Mr. B says, until you film 100 long form, not reels, 100 long form YouTube videos, please don't even ask for advice. Don't go hire anybody because you don't know shit.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, my wife has been my biggest supporter, and out of all the things I've talked about, all the things I've tried, she's said the same thing about me for the podcast, and just like sitting down and it being like me and my element, the natural stuff. And I don't know how it sounds to you guys out there, but I'm having a really good time. And I think that's also part of it is you need to enjoy what you're doing. And it's going to be really unenjoyable for a lot of it because you're getting out of your comfort zone. But once you find the things that are really enjoyable, you need to like double down on that stuff. Your authenticity needs to show through, and you need to be adding value and giving it all away, just like you said. And that's like, so many people make it about themselves. You're already there standing in front of the camera. They know it's about you. Make it about them.
Exactly.
Add value.
How can I help you? How can I solve your problems?
Yes.
What are your pain points?
Yes.
Right. And then build content around that. And if you don't know, go find a viral video that got you in your space and go read the reviews and go, oh my gosh, I could talk about that. I love when I get a call and somebody's like, this just happened. I'm like, thank you. You just gave me a great video.
That's right. Everything is content at that point, and model then modify. So model yourself after who you follow. Only talk about what you know, though. That's a mistake that I think a lot of people make, is like they're modeling someone, which you have to do, but they try to talk about it and they don't know anything about it, or it doesn't come off natural, or whatever it might be.
It's gonna be a problem when they call you and want to really dig down, right?
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, model then modify.
Yeah.
And then, because it's not what's new always, it's what's true. And a lot of it is like what's true to you too. And I think in Matthew McConaughey's book, he tells a story about green lights. He tells a story about when he had to write a poem for a poetry contest as a kid. And he plagiarized, I forget exactly which poem it was, a very famous poem at the time. And he handed it to his mom, and his mom, or he was like really worried about getting in trouble. And his mom was like, well, do you believe this? Is this you? Can you live this? And the answer to that question was all yes. And she's like, well, then this is yours, right? So even though he plagiarized, but it was true to him.
Yeah.
And then I think he ended up getting like second place in the contest. But like, it's okay to start modeling other people's stuff, but make it
100%.
make it you as soon as you can. And then make sure you're adding value into people's lives.
Most people are hacking from everybody else. That's what Gary said.
Yep.
People are stealing from Gary. That's how they got started. Gary got most people started, right?
Yeah.
But then they moved on to, then Gary learned from a Hermosi or a Martell. And so I 100%. And the thing is, now at my point is, we know we're posting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have a whole schedule cadence like we talked about too with yours. And so, but you don't need to worry about that right now.
No.
And so right now that's my thing. And so, I mean, I don't even know how many reels. And I mean, honestly, how many reels are going out? It's 20 something reels a week, plus the stories, plus the long form. There's a lot of content. Plus we're doing ads. It's a beast.
Yeah. And work your way up to that. Right?
I tell people, hey, pick a platform you love, if it's Instagram, and just have fun with it.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, you mentioned the person coming up to you and saying, hey, I saw your content. What social media does, even if you have less than 1,000 followers, like, it makes the world a whole lot smaller, because those 1,000 people found you for what you're putting out there, and they're more likely to know you and want to work with you and recommend you to their friends. You will be so shocked and amazed at how quickly, when you're consistent, how quickly you start to get more connections, more business, more people, more requests, more opportunities. Social media is really social. It connects everybody. And if you're being authentic and you're putting yourself out there, like, things will happen a lot quicker for you. So Kenny, dude, this was incredible. I really appreciate you coming by. Where can people follow you? Where do you want them to come find you and do business with you?
Honestly, the easy way is at Kenny B. Simpson on Instagram. Hit me up. If you have any questions, I can help you, but I live there. DM me, send me a message. But yeah, if you want, that's a good start. If you want to get in my world, start there. And then you can always follow me, and then YouTube, and then get on my email list. And if you're in the real estate game and you want to keep up to date what's going on day over day, week over week.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're not just a broker or a lender. You're going to help people.
I'm more an advisor
at
this level, because I mean, we're dealing with a lot of, like, there's a lot of stuff thrown at us. There's big deals. We have people, for example, say, hey, Kenny, we want to go buy this $10 million building between you and Crystal. Here's my portfolio. Where are we getting the cash out? You figure it out. They trust us. Come back and tell us the game plan. This is what we're going to do. Okay, let's fucking do it. Let's go. That's the trust. So it's that level. Or, hey, Kenny, this is my son. He's never bought a home. Can you hold his hand through the process? Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm Kassidy Warren. He's Kenny Simpson. And as always, appreciate you all. Love you guys. Peace.